Shane Jones.
Kia ora, Mr Speaker. I stand with my colleagues to oppose this bill. I note that it is going to the Select Committee, and every interested New Zealander will have an opportunity to come and make submissions, but I want them all to know that this bill will not emerge like a chrysalis into a butterfly that will fly away and deliver goods. It's going to die at the feet of the government, and it's certainly not going to be supported by us. But if you want to go through the ritual of making a submission and demonstrating that you do believe it's important to entrench inequity through our tax system even more than the current Minister of Revenue has presided over, then make your submission. But your submission will be an exercise in learning about how select committees can be manipulated by the Executive of Parliament and turned into squawk boxes where they only serve to actually reward minority parties for their support to keep a broad policy going which worsens inequity and actually rewards a very narrow range of New Zealanders. So there's an element of piety about this bill, as befits its architect. There's the sense, sir, that a narrow range of New Zealanders, because they live possibly in a style that one might associate with the 1950s, ought to be rewarded, and those who are in genuine need ought to be ignored. Yeah. Now, sir, it's possible that this bill fits a broader picture, and the broader picture is that tax concessions and tax giveaway is the best thing to reward the class of citizenry that supports your political party, which is essentially what the economic development policy for the government is through its tax giveaway. So, sir, we absolutely oppose this bill because it carries on the multi-billion-dollar tax giveaway entered into earlier this year. Now, that in itself, sir, is premised on an assumption that if this narrow range of New Zealanders get a significant tax slice and a reduction in their tax rates, it's going to catalyse the economy. It's somehow going to unleash a level of dynamism. And then more firms will emerge, more jobs will be created. Of course, sir, what it's going to do is have the opposite effect, especially when this bill, which actually proposes to take money away from the most vulnerable and direct it towards a very narrow range of New Zealanders, So that young man should learn it's better to confess ignorance than provide it every day. As the Māori say, sir, pai ke atu me whāki te kuare, kau e whangaia tō kuare ki te tahi atu. But, sir, such a suntan mascot would not understand what I've just said. So, sir, we won't actually be supporting this bill. We hope that the public realises that we will never want to, sir, treat tax policy in such a narrow, iniquitous fashion. So it calls for me to elevate the importance of the contributions made by a genuine lawyer in this House, other than one who pretends he lives in Bay of Plenty but lives in Auckland.
That's right.
And one who models himself on being Perry Mason, sir, but unfortunately lacks a sense of being well adjusted. Now, I want to talk, sir, about a real lawyer in this House, Mr. Chris Finlayson. And he has pointed out that this bill represents an egregious example of discrimination. Sir, that man understands the law and has a style of delivery as befits someone who craves attention from the legal fraternity. So, sir, we thoroughly agree that this bill ought not to be supported because it is not only very discriminatory, but it's ill-judged. And it's ill-judged, sir, for a host of reasons. It does not treat families in their broadest context, sir. And it actually does nothing to create jobs and growth. And where are the jobs going to come from under the current mix of policies that we're forced to endure week after week? Each year, sir, there's a tsunami of young men and women leaving school, quite apart from those that have been dislocated from the job market. Where are the jobs going to come from? They're not going to come from a tax break predominantly for the wealthy. And they're certainly not going to come, sir, as a consequence of a tax break for the self-satisfied. No, that's not going to happen.
That's right.
So, sir, in actual fact, what New Zealanders were hoping to receive as a part of broader tax reform was actually a lever that would enable jobs to grow and firms to generate more foreign exchange earnings by investment, by innovation. And this bill does nothing. What this bill does is take $5 billion and reward a narrow category of New Zealanders. And it actually, sir, deepens inequity and it rewards vested interests, which is why, sir, we can't possibly agree with it. Now, sir, the notion of income splitting is only one way of lessening the problem of people not having enough to pay their way. A far better way would have been not to have proceeded with the tax cuts that are going to only benefit a very narrow range of people. And similarly, sir, not to have proceeded with the imposition of a GST reform that is going to worsen the cost of living statistics. And I tell you, sir, once the by-election in Mana starts, and that side of the House, although I've got a great deal of respect for the actual candidate, sir, unlike other members of that small sub-caucus group of their broader caucus, sir, she will find, sir, actually I have to acknowledge Mr Paul Quinn, because in the gallery today, sir, are some kaumātua from Mairohe, from Taimaro, from the Waimahana block, and I know the Waikohatu block, and I know that Mr Paul Quinn has been endeavouring to assist that very proper, respected lawyer, Mr Quinn Finlayson, unlike the younger member who has yet to visit the kohanga reo. However, let me come back. So once the Mana by-election rolls out, we will see that the GST reforms, such as they are, have worsened the prospects for the average family, sir, to pay their way, to meet their regular bills on food, on buying school clothes, on buying sports gear. Now, we don't have to, sir, explain why we've got it. It's on that side of the House, the responsibility to explain why this punitive measure has been visited upon the most vulnerable in New Zealand society at a time when they can hardly afford to meet all their daily expenses as a consequence of the global meltdown. So that's where we're actually going to see where these ill-conceived ideas impact on people in a political way. And that, sir, will be a dress rehearsal for the big game next year. And I don't obviously refer there to the golden oldie game. I refer, sir, to the election which will be fought and won by those who oppose such acts of false piety as we see in this bill, and ill-conceived ideas which are designed at rewarding a narrow class and forgetting about the bulk of people who have significant issues that they cannot address because their cost of living problems have spun out of control as a consequence of that Minister of Revenue, who fortunately will not be here after the next election. Kia ora tātou katoa.